Good morning, everyone. Can I just reiterate all of the welcomes and how pleased I am to be here, and thanks for inviting us, Sue. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tim Baverstock. I'm the snappily titled Head of Local Systems Influencing at the Alzheimer Society. What does that mean? It does not mean I'm a social media influencer. I cannot dance on TikTok or do anything like that, but it is an interesting job title. And it's at the heart of that shift towards more local autonomy. You'll have heard about integrated care systems, you'll know they're up and running. I lead a team that works with those local systems from an independent point of view, so from an Alzheimer Society point of view, be they health, social care, or integrated, in order to make dementia a priority. So I'll chat briefly later around the latest government work, which is called the Major Condition Strategy, which I know you wanted to kind of touch on today. But if I may, I'll just have a few personal reflections first. It really feels like this is a crucial time for dementia. We've heard a bit of that this morning already. We've got exciting breakthroughs in research and diagnosis methods, and yet we still have people living with dementia right now and their carers who continue to be let down, with huge variations in support available, and a third still formally undiagnosed, which should be a national scandal. There is an election on the horizon. How do we all make dementia a new priority, a priority for any new government? The existence of roles like mine and my team recognise the importance and ability of local areas to actually just get on and shape their own path for dementia. Local areas have, if you like, they have that span across prevention, diagnosis, care and support, and many of you in this room are people that can cut through the nonsense around national policies and at times that nonsensical debate that I'm sure you all hear, and you can dedicate your endeavours and mine to delivering help, hope and support to those who need it. And who is better to make those things happen than those of us on the ground living and breathing it? You must also do so alongside, and it's brilliant to see so many of them here today, alongside carers and those living with dementia. Their voice must be clear in shaping local provision and leading the debate. While much of our work involves meeting with senior politicians or decision makers, I promise you it is far more preferable to be in this room. I want to talk with people who truly understand the impact of dementia and are able to talk about it themselves with a real personal determination and perspective. We have waited seemingly forever, for example, for a social care solution from national leaders. But systems can solve this together. With a joint will, integrated care systems should include local authorities. They have the powers to start solving some of this. They may not have all of the money, but let's do things differently. And to illustrate my point, and I promise this isn't my wedding speech, Sue, I hope you'll just indulge me and just listen to my personal reasons for being in the role that I'm in now. I have worked for many years as a leader in adult social care, and also latterly at NHS England. And I did this because I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to develop meaningful health and care and support for people. And I thought that I was doing quite successfully over the years, prioritising community and adult social care services, investing in the staff, some of whom are here today, in those sectors, meeting the ever-growing demands. But I realised I was doing this in the confines of a public sector and governmental system. And very quickly, some of the values that I held were challenged and tested by financial decisions, politics, or national policy. Undiminished by this, I became a bit maverick, you won't be surprised to hear, doing the things that people were telling me would help, investing in community-based solutions, partnering with charities and voluntary groups to bring a more personalised and effective approach, as opposed to just commissioning or buying services. But the establishment won in the end. I couldn't have the impact that I wanted, the red tape gets in the way, so I needed another angle. And that angle is all of us, advocating, agitating for change, and showing those decision makers the evidence of the right path. That's why I've joined a charity like Alzheimer Society, and there's some other great charities I'm sure are represented here today as well. I also volunteer for a local dementia charity where I live, And those few hours are probably, sorry if my boss is in the room, are probably the most insightful few hours of my working week, because they're hard, but they're real. All of that said, we can't give up on the bigger picture stuff. So there is lots we can do by being that coalition of people who care. We also need to engage others who are less close to it. And to that end, I was asked to update you quickly on the government thinking on dementia, as it currently stands. And some of you will be aware that there is a core strategy being developed at the moment called the Major Conditions Strategy. There is currently no, I think somebody mentioned this just a moment ago, there is currently no national dementia strategy. So the Major Condition Strategy is what we are currently working with. Dementia does at least make the cut and is at least classed as one of the major conditions. Believe it or not, that's progress. We shouldn't see it as progress, but that is progress. So here's what it means currently. There are 6 key conditions. You can see them up there. I won't take you through them all. And there's also an element as to why this strategy has come about. So many of you and many people out there are living with multiple conditions, not just a dementia and not just another medical condition. So what's in it for dementia? We were promised a 10-year dementia-specific plan. This is your 10-year dementia-specific plan, or isn't, as the case may be. This replaces that. That was a change in policy. We've had many different Secretary of States since I've been working for the Alzheimer Society, and each of them has changed the plan. So this is the current plan. There are some benefits to a multi-condition approach. As I've said, 90% of people with dementia have another condition. It will also help to highlight that health inequality that we were just hearing about earlier on. But crucially, there is currently no funding or legislation planned to support this approach. And of course, as you will all know, different conditions will have different priorities. Will dementia really get the focus that it needs by being included with the other 5? No. Thank you, whoever said no. So this framework does recognise the importance of early diagnosis. I mentioned those stats earlier on, which are scandalous, and the provision of individualised and targeted services. It looks at post-diagnostic support, but again, you've got to remember this is not just for dementia, this is across all of those conditions. But it does focus on person-centred care, which is something very close to my heart. The other key enablers, some of whom again are represented today, digital innovation, research, and that elusive shared care record. When are we ever going to get a record across NHS and social care? Some systems are nearly there. And if there's anybody in the room that's got one, I would love to see it. The inclusion of data does align with our call for a national dementia data observatory, and we should keep pushing for that. And the framework contains commitments to exploring ways to best understand people's lived experiences of dementia. That's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? We don't have a national dementia patient experience survey. We have one for cancer, we have one for stroke, we don't have one for dementia. And we at the Alzheimer Society continue to push for there to be one that focuses on dementia. And the negative, the framework largely restates previous commitments. Does that sound familiar? As opposed to announcing new policies. So the commitments are quite broad at present, and they do need refining for the final version of the MCS. And lastly, so what are those next steps? So we, and I would encourage you as well, will continue to engage with the government around the development of the final major condition strategy, which is due next year. We're already going backwards, so the initial interim report was pushed backwards. I suspect the publication will also be pushed backwards. But we are members of the Alzheimer Society, as are others, of the External Advisory Board, and we continue to advocate for people with dementia within that major condition strategy. The experience of people living with dementia is absolutely crucial and has proved really valuable so far. Officials have learnt a lot from engaging with people directly. It's amazing what happens when you put civil servants in a room with people living with dementia. It's totally different than talking to me. You tell them how it is, and it really does open their eyes. So let's keep doing more of that. And I suppose with a dose of realism, this is the only show in town currently, so let's be engaged. Let's push dementia as that key priority. We are making progress. So our CEO at the Alzheimer Society is chair of the All Condition Diagnosis and Treatment Group, so that's a big plus for dementia in terms of that. Obviously she'll have to be balanced, but obviously she'll also be prioritising dementia. I guess the final thing for me to say, and it kind of sums up where we are, is the strategy does have a lack of attached funding, and that publication date kind of raises worries within my mind that we may have a general election and then this may get shelved and we might have to start all over again. So what does that mean? Take all of that on board, take the opportunity to be heard, but let's not let this distract from what we can all do together in this room. Make the most of the days you've got here together, make those mutual connections, build local, regional, national powerhouses. Let's be a bit maverick with some of this, and let's use our voice to make tangible change happen. We may not be able to do it all alone, but we can highlight what works. You guys know what works, I know what works. And we can make lives better for people living with dementia, and also for those who will be diagnosed in the future. Thank you very much.
I just wondered, I'm very interested, and I've just got it back up on my phone so I remember the title because it's another snappy one, but what are your thoughts about the intermediate care framework that's just very recently been published by NHS England? It's for the rehabilitation and reablement and recovery following hospital discharge. I'm Jackie Poole, I'm an occupational therapist, and I worked with the Royal College of OTs and NHS England to very much at the end of the development of this framework to push to get dementia included, which they hadn't, and now they have. It's in there. How do you see that working with the guidance that you've just been talking about?
So I was reading this on the train this morning. That's a genuine, genuinely was. Thank you, by the way. I'm excited that dementia is included. As you say, it feels like a bit of a struggle. How long have we been talking around hospital discharge, intermediate care as it's termed, without talking about dementia? So I'm encouraged to see it included. How do I see it working? I think a bit of what I was saying really, and that is that we need to make sure that whatever somebody's primary health condition is, whatever the reason is they've been in hospital or something like that, we need to understand that when they've got a dementia, it will present differently, and therefore we need to make those pathways as clearly as we possibly can, make them suitable for people living with dementia, which is what it sounds like you're trying to do. As I say, I've only read it this morning, so having a look. I am also doing some work on what are, again, snappily titled virtual wards, which I think are now going to be called home wards, or something similar, where people are being looked after in their own home. And I'm also hoping to do some work around people being able to go straight home, but with some dementia-specific provision, because the other area of intermediate care that sometimes causes a problem is that not all of the carers who are looking after somebody in their own home are necessarily dementia-trained, or may not have some of those skills. So I think it's an exciting opportunity, but you've probably asked me a couple of days too early, but I'm grateful that you've been working on it, included in it, and I'd love to catch up about it.
Hello, I'm Kate White. Thank you for your presentation and for confirming our distress about dementia being included, having been separate and now being lumped together. I use that language with discretion.
You can say that, I can possibly comment.
I think the thing that worries me is the medical model that is being dominant in all of this, and your social care background surely will bring into focus the fact that people are living their lives outside medicine, and actually the social aspects and the life that people have with their interests, with their activities, with their relationships is really at the heart of this, and somehow it gets missed off the agenda all the time. With diagnosis, well, okay, 30%, that's not good, but then what are we offering when people are diagnosed? So I can see why people don't bother. So how do we help people actually continue living the lives that they had the day before they were diagnosed, and support them through that?
Great question. Well-deserved round of applause. You've just kind of alluded to what my team does every single day. And that is, we need to make sure that we move away from a medical model. How do we do that? We get those integrated care systems, who will now include social care and local authorities. We have to get them to think differently. So we spend a lot of our time talking to councillors and leads within councils to encourage them to get around that table and start thinking about that social model. At NHS England, I was working in a team that looked after the horribly titled social prescribing, but you know what that means in terms of, it should be meaningful things for people. And I'm pleased that that is getting higher and higher up the agenda and the offers are there, but we don't have the offer in the community for people. You are correct. We don't focus on what people want. We focus on what the purse can afford, or a medical model, as you say. So all we can do is, back to the end of my speech, is let's go and agitate locally, and let's make people understand what's important to us. Whatever condition we have, let's get our views heard. That's what we need to do, and we need to bring local authorities with us as well as part of that.